We've differentiated between two kinds of skepticism that Cleanthes proposes. The first is vulgar, which just says if you don't understand it, don't touch. And the second is philosophical, which says if you don't understand it, investigate it really closely and see what you do understand and what you don't, and then sort of figure out what to do with it after that. And so Cleanthes has said, why not investigate religion as a philosophical skeptic and see what we can actually find out? Even though we're not sure, surely we can be certain about something. And so first we're going to start off in this process by talking about being and nature. So everyone will agree, they say, that some first cause of the universe must exist, and we'll call that God. We might doubt this, of course, but the characters in the dialogue will all agree that there must be some first cause, and whatever that first cause is, we'll call that God, whether it's actually a God or not. So we're talking about God's nature, not God's being. We're just going to posit something exists. Now what is that thing like? Well, can we know what God is like? Cleanthes is going to say, of course we can. God is perfect in every way. Now Philo is going to say, well, what does that mean, perfect in every way? Does that mean like a perfect human would be? Or something else? Can we even be sure what we mean when we say perfect when it applies to a god? Well, Cleanthes is going to make an analogy. He's going to say, look at the world. The world is like the most amazing, perfect, complex sort of Rube Goldberg machine ever created. And we know what human traits it takes to make really good machines. It takes wisdom, thought, intelligence, carefulness, etc. So God must have traits like this to have made a machine, but perfected. We can use the evidence in the world and an analogy to see what God is like. Now Demea is going to say, wait, you're using evidence? Why don't you use sort of intuition? But Philo is going to say, hold on, Demea, we can talk about that later, but this isn't even good evidence. So let's look at Cleanthes' own argument on its own merits first and see why Philo thinks this evidence is no good. Well, the same cause, we're going to say, will lead to the same effect, right? So every time I knock one billiard ball into another, at the same speed, the same direction, the same two balls, etc., the same thing should happen. But we know that even slight changes in the cause or in the effect can mean huge changes in the other one. Now if you think about this, it seems pretty plausible, right? We can look at a whole bunch of human digestive systems, for example, and they should all work pretty much alike. And you know, cows and humans are pretty similar, right? They're both animals, they're both mammals, they both eat things and need similar nutrition to survive. But compare a human digestive system, you know, fairly simple, one stomach, to a cow's with four, and sometimes it goes backwards, and it's crazy, right? And we're really similar. So why assume that a human machine, something like a watch, for example, and a machine on the order, the scale of the universe, those seem way more different than a human and a cow, right? A human, a watch, and the universe, those are pretty different. So why assume the universe would work anything like a human-made machine? If that's true, now we need to wonder why the designer of the universe would have to be anything like a human. Now we'll grant, maybe, that reason can shape the world. We know, obviously, we can apply our reason in a bunch of ways that change the way the world works. But it's just one of many things that can shape the world, right? A lot of things make changes in the world that have nothing to do with reason. Forces of nature, for example. So why would we assume that it's only reason that makes the universe the way it is? That seems like cheating, because there are a lot of other options. And even if we want to say only one thing shapes everything in the universe, and even that's questionable, remember, but let's grant, right, there's only one ultimate force. Why would we say that ultimate force is something like reason? We know reason is actually pretty rare. We think, actually, that maybe only humans and you know, maybe dolphins, maybe some other really, really high species, but we have you know, no reason yet to think that there's other intelligent life out there. At least we don't have evidence for it. So reason is really rare. And a lot of stuff gets made without reason. So we don't think, maybe, that there's good enough reason, no pun intended, to think that reason is the only force out there. So maybe something else could have made the universe. And for that matter, we don't know if we gave the universe an infinite amount of time that machines wouldn't just sort of pop up out of nowhere, right? Maybe machines would eventually start growing on trees, given a certain sort of evolution or something. We've got a lot of reason to doubt Cleanthes' argument. Well, Cleanthes is going to try to make a response. Well, he's going to say, yeah, we trust a lot of things we don't have perfectly good evidence for, like astronomy. So maybe we should just trust it. Right? It doesn't look like the sun is, like the world is a sphere, it doesn't look like the sun rotates, like the earth rotates around the sun, etc. But Philo's going to say, come on, Cleanthes, yes it does. We have scientific evidence, and that's why we believe these things. And we don't have good evidence about the universe. So we can't say much about it for sure. That means this analogy just isn't going to get off the ground. So we'll see what Cleanthes can try to do to make it back soon.